Hey, it's Downbelow, and we were talking about examples of social traits in action. We had just finished talking about a guard, and we're about to start talking about going deeper. I'm Ian.
I'm Steve.
So, when you go deeper socially, you are trying to convince somebody of something that you will need to overcome objections for, or you may need to convince them of supporting things before you can even try to convince them of your main objective.
There are several ways to educate this. Honestly, the simple one is to engage in a discussion where both sides are role-playing, the DM is bringing up objections the guard has, the player is overcoming said objections by spending successes off their character. This is actually also a very good way to use up a lot of the successes for the session if the group enjoys watching this sort of back-and-forth roleplay. If the group does not enjoy watching or participating in this back-and-forth roleplay, we need to do this a lot faster and get to the parts that are actually interesting to the players, because really, let's face it, if you're just sitting there watching two people talk and it's not something you're bought into, it's one of the most boring things out there.
There are a couple of things to take into account. Sometimes there will be more than one person involved in this. If multiple players are involved in this, then it's probably going to be more interesting than if just one person is involved in the role-playing. Even if just one person is involved in it, if it's one of the players who likes to act more, and the GM, you, presumably, or maybe you're the player, but if you're one of the GMs who also likes to act, that makes it more likely that it's going to be entertaining to the players. This is something that can be worked out by the individual group.
On the other hand, there's something similar that we could suggest for any sort of multi-layer problem. In the case of trying to get through multiple layers of security on a place in the physical realm, or even just trying to cross a large chasm, oftentimes people will sit down and talk about it in out of character. Well, if Bob lays down a bridge and Susan uses ropework skills to make handrails, and then James shoots an arrow across to guide the rope, and then we send Billy over first to test the weight, then it should work. There's no problem with doing that for social situations too. There is sort of a stigma against that in general role-playing communities where it's assumed you should just interact and see what happens. If that's not what you're trying to do, if you're trying to get through with a purpose, if you feel the NPC is a throwaway NPC, if you're not confident in your own acting skills, there's nothing wrong.
Or if the group just doesn't enjoy watching people go back and forth when they're not involved.
There's nothing wrong with stopping and saying out of character, "Hi, my goal is to get through that door. Let's talk about what that's going to take between me and the guard, and then let's figure out what traits are spent and move on."
So, another thing that you might encounter with the using social traits in a situation like this is times when certain subjects, it's just not going to happen. Sometimes people can't be influenced in certain ways.
Or because of certain relationships. If you meet the secretary-in-chief of the corporate flunky you're going up against, who has been with this person for 20 years of their career, you're probably not going to, no matter how impassioned and charismatic you are, sway them from their loyalty in 5 seconds.
There just might be no incentives you could possibly offer that would change this person's mind, and no deceptions you could try that they're going to buy into. In such cases, it is possible that certain objectives can't be obtained with social traits. Just like there may be situations when you are having players looking for information, or players who are trying to accomplish physical tasks where you have to tell them, actually, that's not within your current capabilities, even if you spend a trait.
No, you cannot lift a battleship with one hand. I don't care how strong you are. Even Superman can't actually do that. It'll break.
So, you do come to places where there are limits like that. We have come to another time limitation, and we're going to keep these videos short and sweet for you. Next time, we're going to talk about another side of social traits in this system, which is contacts and other traits that represent people you know and relationships you have.
Absolutely. Until then, I'm Steve.
And I'm Ian.
And thanks for falling through the cracks with us.
If you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments, and please support us on Patreon.